Hello, I'm here with my cousin.
Hey.
And since y'all voted for it, we're gonna read my stories. So let's get started. His whistle pierced my ears. Come out, doll, I won't hurt you, Tate called. I pushed my head into my knees and put my hands over my ears. I'm sorry, when I heard Tate yell from the floor under the attic. I was hiding right above him in the attic. Then I heard the door to the attic open. I backed up even farther into the corner I was in. I held my hand over my mouth as I tried not to cry because I knew how much pain I was about to go through if he found me. I know you're in here somewhere, Tate said. I wrapped my arms around myself, hugging myself tightly. I heard the attic door slam shut, and I started to breathe really heavily from the small panic attack I was about to have. Then I saw the pile of things I was hiding behind move. You've not been a good girl, Tate said, shaking his head. I'm sorry, Tate, I said, shaking. He grabbed my arms and pulled me to his chest. You know I owned you, right? Tate said. But before I could answer, I felt a syringe needle run up my back. Tate, stop! I shouted, trying to push away from him. Then he looked at me with his dark, dead eyes as he pushed the syringe down. I woke up in Tate's room with my head laying on his lap. Are you okay, doll? He said, with a worried look on his face. Yeah, wait, what happened? I asked. He ran his fingers through my hair. Well, I don't really know what happened, but I found you in the attic and you were passed out on the floor, he explained. I tried to sit up, but Tate pushed me back into his arms. No, he shouted, and paused to calm himself down, clearly trying to keep me with him. What the fuck? You're too ill to get up, he said, laying my head back into his lap. How about I get us food? Tate asked. I nodded, then Tate picked up my head and slowly laid it on his bed. Okay, I will be back, Tate said, pleased that I hadn't tried to escape him yet. Once Tate shut the door, I tried to stand up and walk over to his desk to see what was on it, but my legs got weak and I fell to the ground. Ow, what the hell? I said when my vision started to get fuzzy. After my vision cleared, I tried to stand up once again, but once I got to my knees, I fell again. So I laid there knowing that Tate would find me and do horrid things like cut into my side again. Just the thought of that made me scared, and I started to breathe heavily, frantically trying to pull myself back onto his bed. After many minutes of failure, I finally got into the bed as I heard the door creak open. I got you a sandwich, Tate said, smiling. I smiled back at him. Tate, what's on your desk? I asked. Why do you want to know? He said, with the smile wiping off his face. He grabbed my hands and he looked me in my eyes. Tell me why you want to know, Tate said, tightening his grip on my hands. I don't know, Tate, I said, shutting my eyes tightly. Tears started to run down my face. No, don't cry, Tate said, crying now as well. He let go of my hands and hugged me. I was just curious, I said, trying to stop crying. I'm sorry, Ryan, Tate shouted, so crying. It's okay, Tate, I said. He laid his head on my legs, wrapping his hands around my waist. I'm sorry, doll, he said. I sighed deeply as I sat my hand on Tate's head. I'm feeling kind of sleepy, I yawned, but I got no answer. Tate? Are you okay? I asked. Then I felt a jolt on my legs. Tate looked up at me with very sleepy looking eyes. Yeah, that sounds good, he said as he pushed me over to the other side of his bed and moved himself up next to me. I love you, Ryan, Tate said slowly. I love you too, Tate, I answered. Then he wrapped his arms around me and held me close to his chest. No, I love you, Tate said. I scooted closer to him and shut my eyes. Good night, Tate. I would do anything for you, I said, drifting off to sleep. Once I started to wake up, I felt something cold and sharp run across my thigh. Tate, is that you? I asked, barely awake. Yes, it is, doll, Tate said calmly. Then I felt a huge sharp pain in my thigh. Ow, Tate, what was that? I shouted. Then I heard Tate laugh a little. I felt cold blood run down my leg as I started to cry. Tate, what did you do? I cried. No, you're okay, doll, Tate said, his voice getting deeper. I felt his hand wipe the blood off my thigh. I sat up and stared into his dark, lifeless eyes. Why, Tate? Why? I said, wiping the tears from my eyes. Because I love you, he said with his pupils widening. I looked at the shallow cut on my thigh as it bled. Well, Tate, if this is what you think love is, then I don't love you, I said, trying to get out of his bed, but he grabbed my arm. No, Tate, This is it. I'm not staying anymore. Now let me go, I demanded. No, please, I'm sorry, Ryan. It won't happen again, he pleaded. No, Tate, you always say that, and you always just end up hurting me more, I shouted, and he started to cry as I started limping to the door of his room. No, Ryan, don't leave, he cried. Then I limped out of his room, listening to his sweet cries. Then I limped into the bathroom next to his room, and I stumbled to the floor. Once I hit the ground, I started to hear Tate stomping, so I reached up and shut the door and locked it. I leaned up against the door, breathing heavily. Open the fucking door, Ryan, Tate shouted. He began messing with the door handle, trying to open the door. I started to panic, thinking about how he might make the scar on my thigh deeper or slit my throat. Then I started to hear a heavy banging on the door. Open it now, Tate shouted once again. No, Tate, you're just going to hurt me, I shouted, crying now. Ryan, please open the door. I won't hurt you, he said, sounding calmed down. That's enough, I cried. Then I started to limp to the window. I opened the window and began to scream, help me, he is crazy, extremely loud, over and over again. Ryan, stop, the neighbors are going to hear you, Tate shouted, banging on the door. That's the point, I laughed. Then I heard a loud, heavy knock on the door. I heard Tate run down the stairs, so I limped over to the closet in the bathroom and opened the door. Then I grabbed a towel and then I laid it over the cut and put pressure on it. I limped back over to the window as I saw the neighbor walking back to his house. That's when I remembered that Tate is really good at lying. I shut the window, starting to lose hope that I could get away from his grasp. Then the banging on the door started again. Can I come in, please? Tate asked calmly. Are you going to hurt me? I said, trying not to cry. No, doll, I won't. I promise, Tate said. Then I limped over to the door and unlocked the door. He opened the door and looked at the towel that was covered in blood with it seeping down my leg. What did I do? Oh, shit. What did I do to you? Tate said, grabbing me and pulling me close to him. I'm sorry, Tate cried as I wrapped my arms around him and cried into his chest. I promise I won't ever try to leave you again, I cried. Then he brought me to the floor and sat there, crying, lying my head on his shoulder, crying.